The Northtown News Magazine is brought to you in part by eVoter. eVoter is proud to be a sponsor of the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
Hi, I'm Arie Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine.
For the identity of the real Marty Levinson, please stay tuned to the Northtown News Magazine.
Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Come on, baby, don't you wanna go? Back to that lemon light city, sweet hopes.
Hi, I'm Marty Levinson. Welcome to the Northtown News Magazine show with Sonny Hirsch, our cameraman, and the greatest host around, Sonny Myers.
That's a keeper. I'm keeping that. Thank you, Marty. Avi Myers here, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine, a presentation of Sonny Hirsch and myself. And even though I said thank you, Marty, and he gave me a nice haircut, to be honest, I haven't found my hairbrush for the last week, so this is just kind of, schmussed aside. But anyway, dial us up on the web, www.ntnm.org, where in the first 2 months of the year, 15,000 shows were watched on YouTube. You people are out of your minds. Thank you so much. And, of course, community policing we're really, really big on. That's caps24.org. The chairman of the District Advisory Committee of the 24th District, Sonny Hirsch, of course, is the entire technical crew behind the camera. And he hosts the site. If you live in Rogers Park or West Rogers Park or the northern part of Edgewater, you can check caps24.org for your meeting for the rest of the city. Dial 311. The meetings have not been fairly attended in our area recently because crime is down, and while it's good that crime is down, being involved in knowing your police and seeing them actually would help. And for those of you who see new faces moving into the neighborhood and wonder what's happening, well, you know what? Crime's down. It's this nice, safe neighborhood. But stop listening to people from message boards, feeding gossip that's just meaningless, and actually show up at the meeting and hear the real statistics and meet the policemen that actually patrol your streets. It's a good idea. Okay, the election is over, and there's good and there's bad about that. I missed the attention, but the fact of the matter is...
Me too.
That, my next guest ran, and actually was one of my favorite candidates in the whole election in the 10th congressional district suburban-wise, and Highland Park is a Republican. Highland Park, well, whatever. Dr. Arie Friedman,
Hi.
How you doing?
Nice to see you again, Avi.
Good. And, okay, so election's over. Well, you are a doctor, so you do have something to do
That's
now.
right. That's right. I was mentioning to you before, I have an aunt who expressed some concern. She asked my mother what I was going to do with myself now, and of course, I'm going back to my practice. I must say that my partners are grateful for that. They were picking up, my share of the work for quite a while, and it's nice to get back to the routine.
Yeah. What do you find you took from the political experience?
Well, one, I think that the political experience is interesting in that what I've told people is that everything that they've ever heard about politics is completely true. It really is, and I don't, I use that, as a little bit of hyperbole, but the reality is that the things that people are talking about, politicians worried about money and contributions, politicians not really having a good connection to the people, being a little tone deaf, that's very real. And there's some structural problems with how we elect people that's going to take some thought on all of our parts to resolve.
You know what? As long as you open up the door, what are some of the ideas you have on this subject?
Well, one is campaign finance. People talk a lot about campaign finance and how awful it is that there's a lot of money circulating around. I have to be honest, my experience was the opposite. There were people who were willing to contribute fair amounts of money, but were limited by these relatively small maximums. When you talk about the 10th district, which is really one of the most expensive districts in the country to run in, with 24...
And one of the wealthiest.
That's right, right. Well, but a lot of people even the wealthy are suffering. We came across people who had previously been very generous donors, but had suffered from the Bernie Madoff scandal. We came across a lot of financial problems in people who we expected to be able to request donations from. But even so, $2,400 is the maximum anybody can donate. And the reality is that when you're talking about a campaign that spends millions, that's not very much. And have a candidate spend so much time really begging for money as opposed to being out and campaigning really takes them away from the people. And the other side of that is that people who can self-finance. So
Yeah.
I'm not a wealthy man. I'm a pediatrician.
Right.
My high school speech teacher, still teaching at Highland Park High School, and makes more money than I make.
Wow.
I think he's about to retire. Running against somebody who's wealthy and can self-finance, that's a huge disparity. The most valuable thing you have as a candidate is time. And if you don't have to spend the time raising money, you can spend the time campaigning. And I think that's a structural defect.
I think there's a number of structural defects, and as a matter of fact, in some ways, I'd almost like to see fundraising eliminated. Of course, that way I get no ads in Jewish Chicago.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely.
But I still remember Senator William Proxmire of Wisconsin decided to spend $1 on his campaign one year for re-election.
Well, there was a little bit of a little glimmer of hope.
Yeah.
The Republican nominee for governor, Brady, he spent $90,000 running for his race against people who spent millions and millions. So that's a you can still win even if you don't spend gargantuan amounts of money, and huge amounts of money don't guarantee you anything.
No, that's true. Well, he was in a funny situation, and actually I did watch him. He's interesting. One, he's got a completely different viewpoint than the other Republican candidates. Right. He definitely stands out, and not in, and I don't agree with people who think it's all in a bad way. I think there's some very positive things about him. It's interesting too that not just him but Scott Cohn were the two people that concentrated downstate.
Correct.
And that helped tremendously. And of course, with 5 people in the race or 6 people in the race, they split the vote, and he had a clear vote. And you know what? I happen to be a big fan of diversity of opinion. It doesn't mean I want some of those opinions running our government.
Sure.
But I do like the idea of having diversity of opinion in the election forum. So I mean, the thing is, if you cookie cutter everything, you're not going to get new ideas.
That's right. That's right. So we'll see as time goes on. But I think that the citizenry obviously understands that there's a problem in how we have campaign finance and how campaigns are structured.
Yeah, the thing that gets me the most is the fact that with 25% of the people voting, all the people who complain about things were the ones who didn't vote.
Right. And in some areas, Lake County, in my district, in the 10th district, it was 18% turnout.
Wow.
Now, we heard on a regular basis people saying, well, I don't vote in the primary. I only vote in the general. Well, then you're not participating in the decision-making process from the beginning. And then to have people complain, well, there's not a lot of choice. The choice occurs in the primary.
The choice does occur in the primary. I know in Chicago, for instance, all the judges in the Circuit Court of Cook, only one judicial race had a Republican candidate.
Right.
And same thing with water reclamation. There are no Republicans. Right. So if you didn't pick the Democrat, you were out of luck.
Right. And again, the concept of having opposing ideas, particularly in the Chicagoland area, is a good thing. And if nobody steps up to run in the primary, if people don't vote, then you can't really complain.
No, as a matter of fact, I'd like to complain, and I'd like to complain to those people. I turn blue in the face with this stuff. I really do. Somebody tells me, well, if I vote this time, will it really make a difference? Yeah, it'll make a big difference in the history of the world. Absolutely. It takes more than 1 or 2 people to.
Well, again, the Republican gubernatorial race was decided by a few hundred votes.
So those few hundred votes really do count. There's no question about it. By us, the judicial race was decided by 49 votes.
Right. Exactly.
And it really can matter. And not to mention the fact that, just the idea of participating and being a good citizen and voting for, there's an awful lot of decent people who know what they're doing who are the ones who aren't voting, so they don't know what they're doing about that.
Right.
Which is kind of a shame. Now, I know that you made an appearance after the election in the media. I'm still on your mailing list. So you're gonna.
I did. This was at right after the healthcare summit.
Yeah.
I was asked by WGN to speak briefly, and was one of the expert witnesses, if you will, on what was happening with healthcare at that point. And if something good comes out of the campaign, it's that I can get my views out in this venue and venues like that.
Well, let's talk about healthcare.
Sure. Healthcare. What about it? We've got yet another iteration of the healthcare bill is hitting the presses supposedly today or tomorrow. A smaller version supposedly includes some Republican views supposedly.
Supposedly, yeah, something that basically the jaws of life will be used to ram it down the voters' throats if at all possible.
Absolutely, and I from what I've been able to garner from it today, and I've been watching this sort of thing pretty carefully, is that there are some tokens thrown in there that would gather a Republican vote if it was an independent bill. But largely, things haven't changed. The whole overall concept of a government-controlled system, when you're talking about people's individual health care, to me, isn't consistent with how we believe medicine should be practiced in this country.
No, I'll agree with that. And not only that, you don't even and the new bill, I would assume, doesn't allow very much competition between the insurance companies either.
Right. So, there doesn't seem to be an honest attempt to break down the borders between states to allow more competition within each state.
Yeah, for those people who don't understand, by the way, a lot of the Democratic races are funded basically by things like insurance companies and
Trial lawyers.
by lawyers, yeah. And the thing is, the trial lawyers can make a lot of money off malpractice.
That's correct.
And that's why you don't see too much Democrats against it. And the fact is, you know what, and I'm not saying that everything's right in Republican land either, but the truth is that when you're protecting the people that are paying your bills, you're not representing the people or trying to do... I get these emails from people all the time. I don't pass them on. It's too frustrating. It's like, make the congressman to have the same insurance situation we have, and maybe they'll appreciate it.
In fact, there's and we'll see how it goes. I've been getting emails about a proposed, constitutional amendment which says that, and I like it, which is that any law that Congress passes must apply equally to themselves. And
yeah, I got that email also. I like that.
I think that's entirely reasonable. And the problem that I really see developing is the problem that was there from the start, which is that I think that the Democrat plans really do not understand the difference between cost and price. Really the only problem we have in medicine is cost. If it was cheap, we'd be able to cover everybody. People, people could buy it like they buy milk at the grocery store if it was inexpensive.
Yeah.
The problem is that when we look at a costly healthcare system, the only things that are in these bills are things that attempt to reduce the price of it. Now, the problem with that is that you have providers like me, hospitals, drug companies. As you lower the price you're willing to pay further and further down, and the cost doesn't change for providing that service, all you simply do is drive people out of business. Or you just simply have them opt out of the organizations, of the plans that are requiring them to take less and less for their services. So, what will happen in the end is that doctors simply won't take these plans. If it's simply across the board cuts, doctors will be out of business. They'll retire early, they'll stop practicing the same kind of medicine, and access will get worse and worse for all of us.
Yeah, actually my cousin, who was a cardiologist for many years, he basically decided that he just couldn't handle this whole situation anymore.
And cardiologists are an interesting case, particularly the interventional cardiologists, because this year they've been hit by that sort of thing especially hard. Some of their most expensive procedures, the procedures that involve the most equipment and training and time, have been cut in some cases by as much as 45% as far as their reimbursement for Medicare. Now, you've got the equipment, you've got the people who you have hired to run the equipment, you've got your assistants, you've got your time, you've got your overhead in your office, your computers, all of this stuff, and they're cutting how much they pay you by 45% off the top.
That's kind of a lot.
Right. So how do you conduct business that way? Well, from the standpoint of these plans, there's no intention to help the doctors as businessmen. The other side of that is that it's really the business model that encourages doctors to provide quality services. We're all interested in providing medical care and helping out our patients, but the competition is what gets us to be efficient at what we do. To have an office staff that's responsive. If they don't respond well, then you go someplace else.
Yeah.
To have an efficient way, getting into rooms on time. That's a business model decision. If you can do that, then people come to you. But all of that is being kind of thrown by the wayside. All this competition that can improve efficiencies and make businesses better, doctors' offices better, make us better physicians, in favor of price controls. As access goes down because we can't afford to do the work, demand will go up, it's a scarcity, and the situation will get worse and worse. So it's pretty disastrous.
No, it sounds bad, and I know it is bad, and the fact is, but it's just a no-win situation right now.
Right. Well, I think that physicians, and this is something I've believed for a long time, and it's actually part of the reason that I ran for Congress. I believe that physicians finally have to step up as the advocates for all of us. If you look at all the people involved in the healthcare system, the people who have the moral authority, the moral responsibility to step forward and talk about healthcare in general are the physicians.
Yeah.
Now, why don't we do that? Well, in general, doctors have been pretty busy.
Yeah.
building their practices. We don't like getting political because really medicine is about mostly one-on-one interactions. But now doctors are waking up. You and I talked before the show that I'll be helping start up a local chapter of an organization called Docs for Patient Care. And the website is docs, D-O-C-S, numeral 4, patientcare.org.
Yeah.
And this is an organization which has seen what organizations such as the American Medical Association have done, which is not helpful to doctors or patients.
Right.
And only 17% of doctors still belong to the AMA.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Right, I'll talk about that in a second. And are putting up themselves, us physicians, as real advocates for how to improve patient care. The reason why the AMA has lost so many people is that for many years it has been the exact opposite of advocating for physicians and for patients. They've really been also in the pocket of trial lawyers and organizations like that. I mean, they supported this health care bill. Why? Well, because they have all sorts of business interests that are not simply doctors and patients. So, it's time for doctors to really stand up and have an organization really about doctors and patients, which is all of us.
No, that sounds good. We've got less than a minute to go. So
wow, it went fast.
Yeah, it usually does. And this is like longer than we've gone. If people would like to contact you.
Sure. You can always contact me. My personal, because I'm not running for Congress anymore, is Arie, A-R-I-E, 394 @gmail.com.
Very good. And we want to thank you very much, Dr. Arie Friedman.
Pleasure.
Glad to have you back. I thought you were one of the most interesting candidates running, and I really wish you had won. And if you want to run again, I'm more than happy to support you. I can't do that blankly without knowing who's running, but it'd be great. I want to thank my entire technical crew, Sonny Hirsch. Check our website, www.ntnm.org. Go to your community policing meeting, caps24.org. Thanks, everybody, for joining us, everybody. Bye-bye.